Boom! Stan Efferding is in the studio. One of the strongest humans to ever walk the earth. At one point, was known as the strongest bodybuilder in the IFBB. This dude is a beast. He's also super smart. The guy's helped so many people in nutrition, professional athletes, of course, professional bodybuilders, top MMA fighters. He's a wealth of knowledge. Stan Efferding, the white Rhino. By the way, he's like in his 50s, and the guy can still lift about 3 times as much as Justin and about 15 times as much as Adam. It's insane how strong this guy is. It's crazy. Anyway, we know you're going to love this episode. Also, by the way, we have a channel called Mind Pump Clips. If you just want short, smart fitness tips and fun stuff, go to Mind Pump Clips, sign up, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. All right, here we go. Stan, welcome back to the show, man. Always great to have you on. We love what you do. I want to start out by talking about just something real basic, like the best. Let's start with some of the best foods somebody could eat for muscle, maintain a lean, healthy physique, for longevity. Generally speaking, what are some of those foods?
Boy, it sounds basic, but we can't. It's going to take me a minute to get there.
Okay.
Because you kind of got to meet the client where they're at, right? So I said, what's the best diet? The one you'll follow. And I kind of have to start there because there is no best food. There's dietary patterns that I think are more important. There's calories, obviously, if your client's got metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high lipids, then you're considering weight loss, first and foremost, out of the gate, as a triage, right? Got a guy that comes into the emergency room and he's got a bullet wound. You're not down there clipping his toenails, okay? And I just got lambasted from my Tom Bilyeu conversation about the McDonald's diet. And Merrick reposted it, and it had over 3 million views and thousands of comments, and people were just ripping it apart because I said that 95% of health benefits are realized simply from weight loss itself, irrespective of diet, and that the weight loss is really the primary goal. So if you're asking me for general health, for somebody with presenting with some sort of metabolic syndrome, as mentioned, then weight loss is the first goal. Now there's, obviously we have to be in a calorie deficit to achieve a weight loss. And there's a number of ways to do that through calorie restriction, increased workload, or a combination of the two. And we see that calorie restriction is probably the preferable choice because more exercise doesn't equal more weight loss because of the compensation problem where people go out and crush themselves on workouts and then they start sitting more and eating more. But generally speaking, we'll start with, as far as dietary patterns go, it's cholesterol or it's calories.
Yeah. Let me pause you for a second because I want to back you up because the data is very clear on this. When you look at diets across the board, if the calories are low enough, and of course, and correct me if you or if you think you disagree, but of course there's nutrient essentials that need to be met, right? There's essential nutrients, but aside from that,
that's a different conversation. That's a second conversation,
right? So, but if calories are low, what you see is health benefits. This is why you see studies on keto diet, carnivore diet, vegan diet, Mediterranean. I mean, any diet. If it gets someone to lose weight, you do see health benefits. Now, there's more to it, and I think we're kind of oversimplifying, right? Because it can influence how you feel and behaviors and stuff. Yeah. But what you're saying is 100% true, and I know that pisses people off. Yeah. But there's been professors and people who've actually shown this and said, "Hey, I'll eat fast food, and I'll show you that I can improve all my markers."
Yeah. Well, and that's absolutely true. And that's what I talked about with respect to the McDonald's diet. We have the Twinkies diet, and there's a whole host of 7-Eleven diet and the potato diet. And as long as they can achieve a calorie deficit. Actually, when you do the research, we look at the research, it suggests that the most effective diet for the shortest term reversal or regression of type 2 diabetes is the 800 calorie liquid diet. None of us, and this is what I said 5 years ago in my obesity rant, when I did the Rhinos rant on YouTube about the fattest population in the world. I was referencing my family in Samoa, my wife's family. And I said that the calorie deficit was the critical factor. But I said I would never recommend a McDonald's diet. That's the part that gets cut off.
Yeah, right. Doesn't make the full internet clip.
Right. So everybody watches that 60-second clip, and then that part gets cut off.
Right.
For a host of reasons, but the fact still remains that the deficit itself, results in the reversal of just about everything. And people say, "Well, what about their cholesterol?" Well, We see this even with keto diets, high saturated fat keto diets. If there's weight loss, they'll see an initial reduction in LDL. Now, long term, you don't want high saturated fat in your diet, and that's where those considerations can be made. But at least initially, if you want to lower your blood pressure and you want to lower your cholesterol and you want to improve your blood sugars, weight loss for those people who have those issues, metabolic syndrome, which is north of 70% of the population, has some degree of overweight or obesity that's resulted in insulin resistance.
Right.
So again, for the vast majority of folks, I'm looking at calories are king. I want to lose weight. And then I'm start to make other considerations. Those other considerations are adherence would be second.
Very important, right? Because one of the biggest challenges with just cutting calories, so someone might listen to a clip of you talking about, oh, the data says I just got to cut my calories. But if it's a diet that makes you feel like crap or you don't like it, it's not going to work for you. And you said that earlier, the diet that you'll follow is the best diet.
100%. Yeah, I said that 800 calorie liquid diets within 7 to 10 days is going to see a significant reduction in your type 2 diabetes risk. And so you'll have improved your health. Can you maintain it? What are your energy levels like? What's your satiety like? That becomes the problem. And then you're talking about things like potentially lean muscle mass loss, which would require you to start talking about macros and exercise. Now you've got to have sufficient protein in the diet and probably some sort of resistance training. And I don't know why it always has to be kind of a dichotomous choice, an either or, diet or exercise. It's always both. And that's why we try and comprehensively put together a package of lifestyle changes for folks that would result in the most optimal change. Certainly a little bit of weight loss, some more exercise, some resistance training, optimizing the micronutrient value of the foods. Long term, that's going to give them a better weight loss maintenance result. So after we talk about calories, and then maybe we jump in there and talk about, certainly compliance is right up there. And then we're talking about protein. Are you getting sufficient protein so you're not losing lean muscle mass? And obviously, if we want to shoot for a macro amount, then we're talking about probably a gram per pound of lean weight or goal weight. 0.8 per current weight. And that's going to vary depending on the amount of obesity that an individual has. We don't want to match, 0.8 to somebody who's a 40 BMI.
So use a lean body mass, subtract your body
or
fat.
He said
or
goal
weight.
Or goal.
Yeah,
I mean, you got somebody
goal
who's
weight.
300 pounds. They normally want to be down to 200 or 250.
Yeah.
So 200 grams of protein.
Yeah. And, I hate being so vague. You kind of got to be if you want to be accurate because it doesn't apply the same to everybody across the board.
Right.
But at the same time, I want listeners who are trying to lose weight to have a pretty easy to navigate hierarchy of most to least important things to concern themselves with. And so we said that, try and get into a calorie deficit. So you do your little BMR calculator on the internet and plug in your weight and your workload, and it gives you a number. And that's an estimate to start at. And the next thing you want to shoot for after you have that kind of daily calorie number is to try and fix your protein first. And I'll fix that at, let's just say, a gram per pound of goal weight. It's a pretty reasonable number. I'd assume that would be pretty near your lean weight, which is what your goal would be.
Right.
And that, there's a whole host of things. Obviously, it lends itself better to preserving lean muscle tissue, although the weightlifting stimulus, as we're seeing from Stu Phillips' research that he's referenced recently, is probably as or more important than the amount of protein, because he's had some pretty limited proteins, say maybe 0.5 grams protein per pound of lean mass, still be able to retain their lean mass if they were training hard enough. I'd rather eat a little more and train at a sufficient level that's sustainable because, as mentioned earlier, you start crushing people on workouts. Not only is it such a huge departure from their regular daily, schedule or habits, that it's not very likely to become, a long-term lifestyle.
Not only that, but then you're also, theoretically, you're hoping that if and when the time comes when you do overeat a little bit, that some of those extra calories get partitioned to building muscle, right? And they go to work.
Absolutely. Yeah. That would be the goal long term, is to have sufficient muscle so that you're insulin sensitive and you can you include some carbohydrates in your diet and not feel crappy or be subject to that.
Let's back up for just a second.
See, this is slow going, isn't it?
No, this is great.
You wanted some foods.
No, that's not true.
You're actually answering it.
I love telling the audience, because we're so transparent in our show, that when we first started this conversation, like, we're always guided by like the people who run our channels, that like, hey, these topics, this is what get people to click on it, and so of course, it's going to start off with that, but then if you really know your shit, it's going to be nuanced. Every answer
we'll
should
get
be
there.
nuanced.
And hold your question for one more second.
Yes.
We'll get there because
Okay.
my clients demand of me, Stan, just tell me what to eat.
Yeah, of course.
Here on this show, amongst this broad audience, I want to make sure we get there.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what I think you should eat, but I want you to understand that that's not the only way to do it. And here's the criteria or the priorities that you should consider when you get to that.
There's an order operation there.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, so do you notice patterns of diets that people tend to have the hardest time sticking to?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. And what do those patterns tend to look like?
Yeah. And I should say, a lot of folks talk about dieting. I've been a professional dieter all my life. I've gained and lost well over 1,000 pounds throughout my career, bulking up to 300 bills to power lift and dieting down to single digit body fat to compete in bodybuilding. And I've trained people all my life. I was a trainer in college to get by, and studied exercise science, worked in gyms, was a coach. I own a gym now. I've owned multiple gyms over the years. I train people now. And we just started a 90-day fit challenge that over 200 people entered, and they're all dad bods and soccer moms, gen pop people. These aren't athletes. I know I always get the accolades from training the famous athletes, and people associate me with that. But the fact of the matter is the vast majority of people I train are weight loss people.